By show of hands, how many people out there in YouTube land think that I look at all like James Dean? Because, I mean, it's been a running joke in my life. And maybe if I... Even with the denim, I don't think I quite pull it off. Anyways, so, yeah, hi, it's Jess, and I am 7 weeks on testosterone, and I'm here to talk a little bit about that. One cool thing, one change that I really like, okay, observe the side of my face, and then if you look, I'm flexing my jaw. Awesome. I've got a jaw muscle that's really quite pronounced now. My eyebrows are getting darker as well, and my mustache, yeah, there's definitely not going to be any way you can see it, but you can feel it. It's great. It's been 4 days since I last shaved, and I'm just thinking of leaving it for another like a week and just seeing kind of what horrible growth happens on my face and how I look with it, because I'm curious, and I'm a baby trans boy, and I want my mustache. Speaking of being a baby trans boy, I thought I'd talk a little bit about where I'm at identity-wise, and my idea of transmasculine. I think transmasculine as a term is pretty self-explanatory, but basically, I mean, I've thought about transitioning a lot in my adult life, and my dysphoria extends far back into my childhood. It's not a narrative that strays too far from a traditional trans narrative. You know, I used to pray every night before I went to bed that I'd wake up a boy, and I had like my alibi and everything all planned out for that eventuality. And I'm kind of at a point right now where I feel a sort of shift in my identity happening or starting. I still go by gender neutral pronouns and just a shortened version of my birth name. And for some reason that's never felt right per se. But I've been really, really scared of changing my name and assuming masculine pronouns, even though when it happens and when people call me he, it feels really good. And I think I have enough that I've invested into my dyke community and being romantically involved with dyke identified and queer identified women, some of which don't currently date men or have stopped dating men altogether. And I think that I put enough into my sexuality that way and enough into romanticizing a dyke identity that it's been very, very difficult for me to consider completely straying to another shore, and that shore being manhood, basically. Not that I feel that shore would be necessarily like not appropriate for me. I don't know, actually. Like it feels really good to be called by male pronouns, and I think the further along I get into my transition, like, you know, I think about myself looking more male, and I don't really at this point, but you know, I have dreams like every night where I've got like a perfect male body, or I've got sideburns, or my voice is deeper and I just look like a boy, and it feels so good, you know. And I don't know if I should stick with gender neutral pronouns, or if I should go for something that might be easier for, you know, for people to remember and wrap their heads around grammatically, and for me to feel, I don't know, like I've kind of come home in a sense. So I feel so transitional in my identity, and I know that sticking with the name Jess and that going by gender neutral pronouns is not something that I'm going to do long term. And just like kind of deciding on testosterone has been something that I'm unsure of whether or not I'm going to do it long term. And I feel like kind of tired at this point of being in that middle ground and of looking for a place to stay gender wise and physically. And so hopefully this whole process brings me closer to that. I also think that I'm afraid of enforcing masculine pronouns and a name change on my friends. Like, for some reason I feel like it's this huge imposition, and a lot of my friends like have trans friends and or are trans. Like this community is a small community that I live in currently, but it's extremely trans friendly. And yeah, so it's hard to say. I'm also in great news here. Gonna have an interview for a job that I quit, a call center job, but it's a job, you know, and so hopefully they'll take me back. And then I'll have money. But being a call center job, it's a job where my entire presence with a customer is going to be my voice. And with that changing, it's, I don't know, I'm thinking of going into the job, immediately contacting HR and being like, if they hire me back, and being like, hey, I'm trans, gonna go by male pronouns, and I'd prefer that be enforced. And I think having a workspace where I have a more normative pronoun might be a good way for, you know, it's an excuse, firstly, like nobody there's going to call me by gender neutral pronouns. And secondly, it's a way for me to feel out, really, if I like that more. So my transmasculine experience has been that I don't necessarily feel so strongly about identifying as male all the time. I feel gender fluid, not in that I ever feel like I'm female, but in that male doesn't always feel like where I should have been, you know? Like it's not this constant dysphoric state. But I certainly have moments. I went and watched Harry Potter, and I had this overwhelming moment of ache for, because I was like, yeah, I never got to be like this high school or teenage guy, you know, and I felt like a sense of loss for that, because I feel like my embodiment in high school made it somehow more artificial. My embodiment all through those years made it more artificial and really more painful than it had to be. So, I mean, there are moments like that, and how I'm really excited for my body to change. But I guess I feel mainly as though with my gender politics, I went to school for several years for women's studies, but with my gender politics, like I've kind of found a way to renegotiate social dysphoria in my life. So I don't, you know, with that gender is social construction, second wavy stuff, helped me sort of think like, you know, I don't really need to pass. I don't really need to be referred to with male pronouns. You know, gender is this social construct, and I can be this sort of post-gender being. And I guess, you know, my dysphoria wasn't severe enough that it impeded that kind of coming to understand my gender. But lately, you know, it's been my body dysphoria this whole time that's pushed me to start testosterone. And as I start passing more as male, you know, in my daily life, I have been rethinking this sort of, I'll always be gender queer, but this sort of just transmasculine and not male identification that I've had. I really like identifying as a masculine being, or a being with a masculine soul. And at first I didn't know about that either, because I've never been particularly butch or tough or anything like that. But it was when I kind of sat down and thought, you know, there are alternative forms of masculinity. Like, I can be a gentle masculine soul, and I realized that was exactly what I was, and it fit me perfectly. So renegotiating what masculinity is has come a long way towards leading me to my trans reality and allowing me to pursue testosterone and still feel like I'm a legitimate trans person, you know? Like, I don't have to follow this sort of narrative that they really push for in a lot of, you know, like in therapy, they, you know, some therapists I had really pushed for that traditional trans narrative, and I found myself lying through my teeth, and, you know, like, I've always been a boy, I've never doubted it, and that's not my experience, you know? Like, I've been confused about my gender since I was a child. So, yeah, I don't know, this whole process has kind of brought me into feeling legitimate as a trans guy, and legitimate in my decision to go on testosterone. And yeah, and the more I kind of come to terms with the fact that it's valid to have, that I have these feelings, and it's valid for me to be confused and not to simply have clicked and gone, oh, I'm a guy, I'm trans, okay, perfect, it's all simple. my experiences have led me to this decision in a more roundabout way. And it forces me to continue to interrogate my gender in that way and my masculinity. And I'm really thankful for that, as much as it's been tricky not really feeling like I fit anywhere specifically. So yeah, I don't know. I'll keep you guys posted on that. And I have been seriously considering a name change. And I'll keep you posted on that too. But yeah, and I had a good conversation with my mom the other day and was trying to explain to her my gender, and that went really well. My mom's been amazing this whole process, so that's really exciting. And yay, job interview, exciting, and I'm in a really good space. Also, a couple other changes I wanted to talk about at this point. I'm another vlogger. Can't forget, but I can't remember, but I'm gonna find out and give him due cred in my little section, comment section, whatever. It came up with the term man shaping, and I really like that term because that's exactly what's happening to me. And I think what he means by that is that his whole silhouette is becoming more masculine. So, you know, it's not necessarily a body hair thing. It's just like ever so subtly your body fat, like my body fat is redistributing so that, you know, suddenly it's so easy for me to bind. Whereas before I'd always have like a kind of, you know, bit of a bump, and now I'm just like, now there's nothing, you know. And so my body fat is breaking down here, and it's broadening. My shoulders are broadening out, my neck's getting thicker. I think my jaw is squaring off a little bit, and that's cool. And yes, my arms are getting bigger, my hips are, I don't know, I guess they're getting more narrow. I'm really upset about my hips in general all the time. Really dysphoric about that. So I don't know, but it's, you know, I'm 7 weeks in, so it's all really exciting. And yeah, and I'm just feeling like emotionally good about the whole thing. Doing a shot every 14 days though is really wearing on me. Like the mood swings are intense, and I'm gonna have to talk to my doctor about taking it to 10 days. God, never do your shot every 2 weeks. It's just like, I don't know, my experience, it's like so not worth it. Okay, cool. So I think I've covered everything. I hope everyone has a great week. And I'm thinking about doing another video with my friend Mason, who was in my last video, I think. I'm going to talk to him about some ideas, and we can have like a little interview sort of situation. So that's cool. That's exciting. Mason's like 3 years into his transition, and it's cool to have him around as someone that I can relate to in so many ways, which I do. Right. So, all right, guys, take care.